first question then, how did the pandemic impact your caring role?
Who wants to go first?
Hello, Martin.
Julie, you go first.
Hello, Julie.
Go
Hello.
on, Julie.
For me, I found it quite difficult having to isolate and shield for my mum, and it just took things away that we couldn't do that helped both of us. So, for example, she used to go to a day thing with the John Taylor Hospice, which obviously shut down. So I think it just isolated us more and took away some choices. I would say it was really tough at the beginning. Well, for the first 6 months, it was really tough. So over to you.
Yeah, I brought this out of that, and the biggest problem we faced was right at the start, was in spite of my mum being bedbound and having multiple mental and physical health problems, she wasn't actually on the government's vulnerable list. She hadn't got any of the conditions that were on the vulnerable list, therefore no access to priority shopping lists. So the first few weeks were a real white knuckle ride of how we were going to get food, because like you, Julie, I was shielding my mum and not leaving the house, having to depend on deliveries from friends, neighbours, whoever could get to do it. And it took several weeks to get sorted, and to be quite honest, for a while I didn't really know how it was going to happen, how it was going to work. And I don't think that was a local problem. I think locally everybody did a fantastic job to work together. Age UK did some deliveries and what have you, but it was a result of the national guidelines that caused it all to go wrong. And I was told by somebody at Age UK they'd had a huge number of people making the same comment to them. Whether that's the case, I'm not sure, but that's what I was told. Other than that, it was pretty much business as usual for us, because I was pretty much locked down with mum anyway beforehand. The only difference was I couldn't go out to the shops. So,
Yes,
obviously we
it
couldn't
sounds
have,
like a similar thing for all
district
of us.
nurses and matron and what have you in. Okay, Ron, sorry.
Yeah, no, what I was saying, Martin, it sounds like a similar thing for all of us. I mean, I was looking after Mum. I mean, she was 96 and she was housebound rather than bedbound. And she could only get out if I took her out. And her two favourite days really were the Thursday shopping trip and the Saturday morning trip to a little local friendship group, really. And suddenly when lockdown occurred, all these stopped. So her link to the outside world stopped as well. She got dementia, or early stages dementia. So I don't know whether her worsening dementia made the whole system more stressful for her, because she didn't understand why she couldn't go out. But it was for the first time in 16 years, after we got locked in, the first time in 16 years of me living with her and looking after her, that she turned around to me. She said, "I never go out, do I?" And it made me feel terribly inadequate. And I mean, she wasn't a demanding person, so I had the occasional evening out as a sort of a respite. But even they stopped when the second lockdown came, and suddenly we were locked in the house together. And there's only so many hours you can sit and chat about things. And it was very difficult because she didn't really understand why she couldn't go out. She couldn't go out at all. And any social life for me also stopped. So I think it was a tough time. I don't think I'm alone in that.
No, definitely not.
I would add there as well. I think the changes and the lack of able to socialise meant that carers, we had a bit less support, because we hadn't got, like my family, for example, couldn't come and like have a day with my mum because they weren't allowed to come. So it just felt like there was a lot more pressure. And it was quite difficult because you never got any breathing space. I found.
Yeah. I think the other thing Martin said about his mum not being on the vulnerable list and therefore not getting the shopping, I had to stop shopping and I had to rely on my family and my brother in particular to go and do the shopping for us and bring it all back. So I think that highlighted the fact that you couldn't go out, and it started to play on my mind that it was dangerous to be outside the house, and that feeling of danger just grew. And then I was most concerned that Mum at 96, if she caught it, it'd be the last I saw of her.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go out and bring it back.
Yeah.
So I felt absolutely locked into the house, whether I was able to go out or not.
Yeah, and there were two sides to that. That was my fear as well, is that if one or other or both of us caught it, that Mum would end up in hospital and I wouldn't be able to visit her and she wouldn't understand why I wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or I'd expire because I suffer from asthma and I was far from sure that I'd be okay if I got it. And what would happen to Mum? Because I was her sole carer and she was the only one, I was the only one she'd accept care from. So, you know, that frightened the life out of me. So that's why I decided to shield both of us.
Yes, I understand that.
The other thing I felt was that
Excuse me, Martin, sorry.
there wasn't very much said about unpaid carers. There was lots said about frontline staff in hospitals and care homes, rightly
Yes.
so. But when did you ever, on one of the government press conferences, hear unpaid carers mentioned? And we were just as much at the front line, looking after hundreds of thousands of people in the community, and we barely ever got a mention.
Yeah, I agree.
Just forgotten by central government anyway. I don't think that's true of the local services, but certainly central government.